A lot of smoke on the show today. Woo-wee. We got a lot to cover on today's program. We got a little he said, she said. We got a little blackmail, maybe a little extortion. We got a little rioting, potentially, allegedly, possibly. Insurrectioning, allegedly, potentially, possibly. We got some lawsuiting. We got some $10 million demands. We got some national news, some serious national news. We got some backroom dealing, some wheeling and dealing in that back room. We got a lot of conspiring going on, whole lot of conspiring going on, and a lot of corruption. We'll talk about it. Get ready, buckle up, and giddy up. Judah Wickower. Let's rock and roll. Guys, welcome to the I Love CVille show. My name is Jerry Miller. Good afternoon. Thank you kindly for joining us. A Charlottesville, Central Virginia, Albemarle County, Commonwealth of Virginia, country and worldwide audience at our disposal. Folks, so much to cover on the program. I mean, Judah and I were preparing for today's show, and I was thinking when chatting with the esteemed, illustrious Judah Wickower, how much ammunition we had for today's show, how much content. The last 10 days have been a whirlwind in the local news cycle. A whirlwind within a local news cycle that has undoubtedly been manipulated and controlled and influenced by former Charlottesville Police Chief Rachel Brackney. Yesterday afternoon on social media, specifically on Molly Cogner's Twitter account, she goes by the handle Socialist Dog Mom. Yes, Socialist Dog Mom. Molly, I'll give you some background on her, does a phenomenal job of covering local news. She makes her living creating, documenting, papering the trail and the record, being a source of local news, oftentimes breaking news, specifically on Twitter, where she has a large following. I'm talking over 125,000 followers on Twitter. Yesterday, Molly on Twitter, Socialist Dog Mom, the handle, did some investigative reporting. And in 2022, the year we're now, the investigative reporter is no longer legacy media, print, radio, television. Instead, the legacy reporter or journalist or broadcaster or influencer is a small team, often one person, utilizing social media and their large following to get news out to the masses. And she's done it. She has ID'd, potentially, her evidence strongly supports that identification, a Charlottesville city employee who was in the Capitol during the January 6, 2021 insurrection, a riot of the Capitol. Terrorism, if you want to call it. Tyranny. Judah said it before the show. He called it, and I don't often use profanity on the program, he called it a shit show, which it was. I remember watching the insurrection here in the studio, Judah, you and I, on the studio television in downtown Charlottesville, and I was humiliated to see that. So this is what we're going to do on today's show. Let's go to the two-shot. Let's welcome Judah Wickower if we're not already on the two-shot. This is what we're going to do on today's program. And I want you, the viewer and listener, to offer perspective, please. Please offer your thoughts, your ideas, your perspective on this topic. I'm going to take what is undoubtedly a soap opera, convoluted storyline, and Judah and I will try to ID the timeline, the breakdown, and assess the collateral damage and what's next for the city. It's the Thursday edition of the I Love CVille show. Today it's presented by Skooma Boutique Dispensary, the best dispensary in Charlottesville. Skooma Boutique Dispensary on the downtown mall next to Rapture and on Elliowood Avenue to service the UVA corner. Skooma Boutique Dispensary. Judah, good afternoon. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well.
Brackney's press conference yesterday was the lead of the program.
Mm-hmm.
The fallout of that press conference is the lead of today's show.
Okay.
We now have, thanks to the sleuthing of Socialist Dog Mom on Twitter, an ID of the city employee who was inside the Capitol on January 6, 2021. The reason this story became a story is because Brackney on Twitter a handful of days ago put it in the news cycle. Once she put it in the news cycle, Lloyd Snook is then getting interviewed by NBC 29. Once Lloyd Snook is getting interviewed by NBC 29, it then becomes even more in the news cycle. And then Molly on Twitter does some digging, IDs the employee. We'll tell the viewers and listeners how. But first, this is 100% Brackney's doing. She's created this story. She's utilizing her podium, her platform, her influence, the leverage she has from a $10 million lawsuit, which she announced yesterday, that she was going to bring the smoke and that she was going to tarnish and potentially try to disgrace the city of Charlottesville. She referenced audio recordings she had, private conversations she had that she privately, secretly recorded. And she said, and alluded to them being juicy, meaty, and full of the smoke. Where do you want to begin on this topic?
I don't even know where to begin. It's pretty nuts. I mean, if her goal was to discredit the city, then I feel like we're doing her job for her.
Okay.
I mean, I understand the desire of a reporter to dig into stories like this.
Socialist Dog Mom.
Yeah, and and I don't want to do her a disservice, but
this is how she makes her living. She uses a Patreon account and subscribers to make a living this way.
Yeah,
and I respect it.
Yeah, I appreciate her doing the digging. I don't mean to disrespect her, though. I feel like this may have been she may have been eager to do this with the fact that this guy is obviously right leaning.
Oh, no doubt. Her handle is Socialist Dog Mom. I think with the handle Socialist Dog Mom, we can say that she is socialist ideology. Yeah. And the man that she's identified, the city employee who was inside the Capitol on January 6, 2021, is undoubtedly right radical.
Yeah.
I'm going to go right radical. Someone who utilized his social media accounts to publish his disdain for the Black Lives Matter movement. This city employee has done. A man who clearly on his social media has posted content, this man, aligning himself with the Proud Boys and radical patriot organizations, some of them that profess violence, many of them that profess violence. So here are the questions I have, viewers and listeners. Judah, viewers and listeners, across all social media. A city employee that was inside the Capitol on January 6, 2021. Is that enough for the city employee to be terminated, fired, pink-slipped, can? First question. Next question. I want all your takes. Viewers and listeners, I want your takes too. Next question. Is this the first round in a strategic plan from former Chief Brackney to disgrace the city? Is she slowly releasing the skeletons and the nastiness that's from behind closed doors, that's a part of all jurisdictions? All city halls have this kind of nastiness, right? I'm not saying it's exactly like this, but there's skeletons in the closet for everywhere.
No doubt.
Is this the first round of skeletons in the closet being released? Will there be future rounds in the near future? Because Brackney is telling City Hall, you better freaking take my $10 million lawsuit seriously and pay me, or you're going to start getting blackmailed and extorted, and more nastiness and more skeletons in the closet are going to come out. That's the next thing I want to know. The next thing I want to figure out. How do you want to handle the city employee? We can talk about where he works. You jump in. I would say a public safety official in Charlottesville City, undoubtedly.
You would say I'm not sure what you're saying.
He's a public safety official.
Okay, yeah.
That further complicates it.
I'm not sure why.
A public safety official who's in charge of the safety of the public is inside a Capitol during a terroristic attack on domestic soil? You don't find at least some freaking irony there?
Well, first of all, I find your use of the word terrorist or terroristic to be a bit overwrought.
What does that mean? You think January 6, 2021 was not terroristic?
Not really.
I disagree.
So so you would condemn anyone that was at the Capitol?
All right, here's another question.
As a terrorist.
Here's another question we got to have, and I'll answer your question. The city employee who Brackney put in the news cycle, who Socialist Dog Mom has ID'd on Twitter, the city employee is claiming refuge through this reasoning. He's a freelance photographer. He was on site as a neutral observer documenting the January 6th insurrection. When he was asked to leave by law enforcement, he left immediately, and he should be held unaccountable because he was a neutral observer. That's what he's saying. Are you buying that? Can you legitimately be a neutral observer inside the Capitol on January 6, 2021 without being a terrorist or an insurrectionist?
Yeah.
That's a tough one for me to swallow. Explain that. That's a tough one for me to swallow.
Explain that? I mean...
it's a tough one for me to swallow.
Well, he's already been talked to by the FBI. So...
That's true.
I find this... I find the whole idea of crucifixion by social media to be extremely distasteful.
That's fair. And I've experienced that as host of this show before on social media. You've seen it for statements and claims and opinions I've made. And it's not nice. It's not fun or pleasant. And that's fair.
I don't care whether it's nice or fun or pleasant. I think it's despicable. It's
So you think is what Brackney did despicable?
she didn't name anybody.
Brackney created this story. She put this in the news cycle. She randomly put this on Twitter, uninspired, uninfluenced. She put it on Twitter with her own prerogative, not responding to anything else. One day, opened up her social media account, Twitter, and posted on social media, hey, there's a city employee that was inside the Capitol on January 6th. And then she said in the same tweet that an assistant police chief did an investigation and he determined that this was not a crime. And then she said, oh, not so fast, my friends. I don't agree with what you're saying. I'm taking the file and I'm sending it to the FBI. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, she said, I decided it was a crime.
Yeah. So
But I don't think she had any. What evidence of a crime did she have? It sounds like all she had was that he was there.
Yes.
And if you're convicting someone based on the fact that they were there.
Okay, well, where there's smoke, there's fire. And we're having to take a conversation for a talk show. You're doing a hell of a job. Great job. You've really been blossoming of late. The same man that we're talking about who was inside the Capitol, who's claiming to be an observer, a freelance photographer, a voyeur, he's essentially claiming he's nature's voyeur. He's the peeping Tom of riots.
What are you talking about?
He's claiming to be a neutral.
Did he say that?
No, he's claiming to be a neutral observer, and a neutral observer is the peeping Tom of riots in this particular case. This guy is saying he was on site as a photographer and he was documenting, and then he left. But everyone has seen his social media. And the guy who works for the city of Charlottesville has posted on social media before and after January 6th, before and after, he's posted content that's aligned himself with the Proud Boys and the radical right.
Yeah.
So you're telling me this is what you're saying. Let's give the benefit of the doubt to the city employee who was in the Capitol on January 6th during the insurrection because he was just a natural observer and we shouldn't crucify him. Despite the fact that his social media has radical right content and anti-BLM content on it. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that none of the second part of that statement was necessary.
What does that mean?
It means you can't have both. You don't give someone the benefit of the doubt despite X, Y's. Justice in our country is based on giving people the benefit of the doubt until you can prove something. And his alignment on social media is not an indictment of anything that he could possibly be sent to jail for.
Well, FBI concluded no, so your statement is backed there by the FBI's decision. And the assistant police chief concluded no. It was Brackney who concluded it was a crime, and she had her assistant chief and the FBI both say otherwise. The next question and the next layer to the onion, okay, the FBI has concluded this is not a crime.
Because
the assistant
not
police
everybody
chief,
there was a criminal.
Okay, the next...
And in fact, I think most of the people that were there weren't criminals.
The follow-up question, Lisa Costello will get to your comment. Neil Williamson will get to your comment. Carol Thorpe will get to your comment. Jennifer will get to your comment. Grayson will get to your comment. What do you think, viewers and listeners? FBI has said it's not a crime. The assistant police chief said it's not a crime. The only person that said it's a crime so far is Chief Brackney. Chief Brackney is the only person that said it's a crime. We're past the point of it being a crime. The next question is it enough ammunition for the city to terminate the employee?
I really hope not.
That's the next question.
That's the scary question.
That's the cancel culture.
That's the cancel culture. Terrify all of us.
If the city fires this guy?
If they even think about it. What, you're going to fire someone because of their political leaning?
Here's a follow-up question. Is political lean being inside the Capitol during a riot? Or is that insurrectionist and
If you
terrorism?
If you believe either of those things, if you believe that he was in there as an insurrectionist then take him to court. Prove it.
Let's get to the comments. Lisa Costello is watching the program. This is a comment from Lisa Costello in Charlottesville. Was he arrested? What is the city policy on employees who get arrested outside work hours, whether inside the Capitol on January 6th, drunk driving, destruction of private property during a riot, domestic violence, etc.? If there is such a policy, it should be followed. If not, there should not be one created just for this person. Yes, there are people who attend these events only to photograph and report. That is how we see the public. That is how the public sees these images. That's from Lisa Costello.
Yeah.
Lisa, thank you for commenting on the show.
Didn't we recently have some city council officials attending?
Bodo's union rallies.
Yeah.
Is that what you were alluding to?
Yeah. I mean, we don't crucify people. We don't condemn people for their beliefs.
Carol
now,
Thorpe.
there may be questions about the propriety of people working for the city attending certain events, but we don't fire them for that.
Carol Thorpe watching the program. She's the queen of Jack Jewett. She gives you props and says Judah is 100% correct. Neil Williamson is sharing links about domestic terrorism from the FBI.gov website, and he's also sending a link about Law and Order and the Thought Police from study.com. Those links are in the comment section of my Facebook page. So there's a tremendous amount to unravel here. I encourage everyone watching the program to read Molly Cogner's thread. Her handle is Socialist Dog Mom. Support her platform through Patreon or any of the subscriber fee or opportunities she has.
Yeah.
The CVO Weekly is also investigating this story. The reporter for the CVO Weekly, her name, remind me of it if you could please, Judah.
Let's see, Brielle Ensminger.
Okay. She contacted the city employee who works in public safety. He's a liaison between the police and the fire departments. The CVO Weekly contacted this man. He responded to the CVO Weekly reporter confirming it was his Twitter account that he posted that content about anti-Black Lives Matter on his accounts.
Yeah.
So he confirmed it. Then he took his Twitter account from public to private, and he deleted his LinkedIn account, that according to the CVO Weekly. It's a Pandora's box, or it's an onion where we truly do not understand how deep these layers go.
What layers are you talking about exactly?
What other dirt Brackney has?
Oh, well, yeah.
What other dirt does Brackney have? Because this round of dirt was her.
I don't know that this is this round of dirt, so to speak, if it's this guy, this guy's involvement in the Capitol insanity. I mean, this doesn't aid her allegations at all.
It offers leverage and undoubtedly aids her lawsuit.
No.
Yes, it does.
Not even in the slightest.
Yes, it does.
How does this affect in any way her lawsuit?
How do you think it does not affect her lawsuit? How do you think it doesn't put tailwinds or make the lawsuit more bona fide or put more fear into City Hall? Brackney, through a couple of freaking strokes of her iPhone on Twitter, has created a news story that makes the city look terrible.
Okay, but that may...
And she's got more. She's saying she has tapes.
That may entice Charlottesville to
Settle.
be more inclined to settle,
That's the whole point.
but it doesn't aid her actual lawsuit in any way.
Yes, it does.
How?
The whole point of her lawsuit is to get money. The whole point of the lawsuit is she wants $10 million. And she's utilizing social media and the dirty laundry of the city to get $10 million faster.
Well, then, if she started off with her biggest gun, I'd say
This isn't her biggest gun. Do you think PhD Brackney, this is her biggest gun? Do you think this is her biggest gun? Do you think she led with her ace of spades, her trump card? No way.
we don't know.
Dude, come on.
Look, if, as you are implying, her goal is to not go to court and to just get money, then this was a poor first shot.
I will agree to disagree. Respectfully, we will agree to disagree. And that's what makes this talk show great. Your opinion here and your perspective often is very different from mine, and I appreciate it. We'll agree to disagree. I think Brackney made the first move in a $10 million game of chess. And that first move in the $10 million game of chess has undoubtedly controlled the board. And she showed everybody, she flexed some muscles and said, I got skeletons in dirt, and I got smoke, and I'm going to use it, and here's my first move.
Okay.
And if you haven't read the Daily Progress article by Ginny Bixby, you read that, right?
Yeah.
It's in today's Daily Progress.
Mm-hmm.
And in today's article and today's Daily Progress, it very clearly identifies some of the potential dirt that Brackney has or can allude to, including what's in the lawsuit.
Which I find a bit...
The city already identified, it's seen the content associated with videoing simulated sex acts, circulating nude videos of females and officers videotaping children of SWAT members detonating explosives, firing police department semi-automatic weapons, etc. Let's see what she has here, but I would bet it's substantial.
My problem with this whole thing is that I'm not sure what any of that has to do with race, color, and sex.
She said she was fired because of that.
No, she said she was fired for trying to change the...
No, that's one reason. She was also alluded to being fired for being a black woman.
Brackney was fired for being a black woman who was trying to reform a police department. So that implies that if she hadn't been a black woman, she wouldn't have been fired for trying to reform the police department. But I think that was the problem. Boyles, from what we read or talked about earlier, saw a major issues arising with her trying to take down the entire department, and wanted to nip it in the bud before it became too large a problem. Now,
Boyles fired Brackney because Brackney was trying to recreate the police department and its policing tactics. And while reinventing or reimagining or remodeling or starting from scratch and building it all over, she alienated a lot of people in the department. And that led to them quitting their jobs and attrition within the department hitting a 24% vacancy rate within the CPD. Yeah. So Boyle said, I have to fire this leader because from what I gather, her leadership is what's causing this attrition.
That was very well put. Let me ask you a question. Does any of that have anything to do with race, color, or sex?
She is saying, in part, the people quit the department because of race, color, and sex.
Okay, but that doesn't have...
And she's also saying that counselors, and she names Snook, the current mayor, McGill, a current counselor, and Heather Hill, a former counselor, in the lawsuit, as well as former police civilian review board chair Bellamy Brown, current interim police chief Tito Durrett, former spokesman communications director Brian Wheeler, city attorney Lisa Robertson. I mean, she's naming the power players in city. All the power players.
Yeah, I mean, what can we draw? What conclusions can we draw from that? I
That
mean,
this is gonna get way uglier.
We know Bellamy Brown isn't a racist.
No, Bellamy Brown's not a racist.
We know that city council are not racists. I mean,
Not the current ones.
Lloyd Snook.
Not the current ones.
Lloyd Snook defends people who are, he defends people of color, all types. I mean, if you get a chance, go look at his door. He's got a sign on the door,
We see the clients
speaking
coming
about
in and out of the
inclusion.
hallway, going to and from his law firm.
So,
They pass our studio.
I don't know. I feel like she may have some nasty dirt.
Dude,
but
pay the lady. And I'm not one to back down from a fight, and you
Jerry
know this.
says pay the lady.
I'm not one to back down from a fight. You've known me for 10 years. It's not the size of the dog that matters. It's the size of the fight and the dog. And there's no one that's going to bring more fight and firepower than me to a fight. And you've seen it over 10 years. You said multiple times you're not someone to cross on the show, in general, in life.
I don't know if I've ever said that.
Brackney, pay the lady. It's going to get worse. You don't have to do the $10 million. Negotiate, split the difference. She previously was asking $3 million. You made the point yesterday. It was an excellent point. She was previously asking $3 million. A lawsuit she initiated last November. They should have paid her the $3 million. It's going to cost more than $3 million now. She would have taken $3 million. You could have paid her the $3 million. Now she's 3x plus what she wants. Give her $5 million, damn it, and get it over with. Have her sign a document, and we don't have to say the name Brackney again. In the press conference, one of the comments that she made that really resonated with me, Chief Brackney yesterday in front of the federal courthouse on West Main Street literally said this: "You have been put on notice. As our former mayor said, we have unmasked the illusion." She's literally referencing the tagline from Nikiah Walker's campaign.
Yeah.
In her press conference, she references the former mayor.
It's hardly a surprise.
It's not a surprise, but it further reinforces our take about the strong alliance there. And it also is something that came up. I was talking about this with my wife yesterday. I wouldn't be surprised if some of that ammunition, the tapes,
Came from Nikiah?
Came from Nikiah. The audio recordings came from some of them from Nikiah. I would not be surprised.
I wouldn't be all that surprised either. There's got to be some...
Because she was already recording Boyles. We know Nikiah was recording Boyles already. And she played some of his recordings, some of that recordings on the dais during a city council meeting. She's literally busting out her phone during a Zoom city council meeting and saying, "I got secret recordings of the city manager and I'm playing them right now on the record during the meeting." She did that.
Can anyone...
Carol Thorpe says this: "We've dubbed Carol Thorpe the Queen of Jack Jewett. She follows the news as closely as we do." She says the race color part, Judah, is alleged to enter into the style of policing Brackney was seeking to implement. Did you hear me?
Yeah, I'm reading the same thing.
Lisa makes this point, and it's a really good one. Lisa Costello, you've made the show better today, Lisa. If they fire this employee who was inside the Capitol on January 6th without clear policy or authority to do so, this could be another lawsuit for wrongful termination.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. It's a mess. It's a freaking mess.
Because ultimately, where do you draw the line with people supporting organizations?
I don't know. I mean, when's the last time
Remember
we've had a Capitol riot? This is unprecedented.
Yeah,
It's unprecedented.
But we had riots all of 2020.
No, I know. I do. I know that. And you make the point you're saying this. You're basically saying this, and I apologize for cutting off. I'll work on that, get better. You're basically making this point. If the city of Charlottesville fires this guy for being at the Capitol riot on January 6th and this insurrection on January 6th, will the city of Charlottesville then fire people for being at a Black Lives Matter movement march?
Yeah, and not just Charlottesville, but anywhere. If we're condemning people because they, somebody may have supported the Proud Boys without knowing what without knowing their complete, I don't even know what to call it, their campaign,
their ideology.
Yeah, not their ideology so much. I mean, you can support someone for their ideology and not know that they're inciting people to horrible actions. I don't know. My point is that you can support BLM without supporting burning down, police precincts and some of the other nasty stuff that went on in the riots in 2020.
Katie Pearl, we love when you watch the show. Katie Pearl, we hope you're doing well. She asked this question: did Walker get a settlement as well? Nakaya Walker get a settlement as well? I don't know the background. No, Nakaya chose to not run for re-election.
Yeah, and she wasn't fired.
Yeah, she wasn't fired. She chose not to run for re-election. And the interesting aspect, the interesting part of the story that further adds to the soap opera here, Nakaya Walker, when she announced that she was not going to run for re-election, she first referenced Brackney's firing as the reason she was not going to run for re-election. Walker referenced
that doesn't make any sense.
Brackney's firing and said, I'm not going to run for re-election because of how Brackney was treated. That's what she said.
That's just foolish because
I'm just relaying what happened.
Oh, I know.
That's what happened.
I'm not saying you're foolish. I'm saying
that happened.
I'm saying it's a foolish statement because why not? If it means that much to you, why not stay and
try to fix it
and work?
Yeah, you try to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Carol Thorpe says, I have no doubt there was a direct mayor-to-chief pipeline of information. No doubt about it. Nakaya to Rachel, straight pipeline of information. Passing the goods, passing the leverage back and forth. It's not going to get better. My wife was asking me this question. First, this is how we got to this question. My father-in-law and my wife were on the phone together yesterday. My father-in-law was watching one of the news networks, the cable TV news networks, and Charlottesville came in the news cycle. Said Charlottesville's in the news cycle again. He's on Long Island watching this. And he said to my wife, he goes, why is Charlottesville always in the news cycle? And she asked me that question. And then it resonated with me, it stuck with me. And I wanted to talk about it with you. Charlottesville is always in the national news cycle. Here's what I think the answer is. I'm curious of your take. And pick apart my answer. You always do. Makes for a good talk show. We got this very interesting dynamic in the town. And it's not unique to Charlottesville, to elsewhere. But it's certainly more unique to the Commonwealth, to our state, where we have such a huge concentration of wealth. There's so many wealthy people here. And so many of the wealthy people in Charlottesville, I mean, look around, are let's cut to the chase, white. And that wealth and that education is often transplanted wealth from elsewhere after folks got a taste of Charlottesville or they saw Charlottesville in a ranking for one of the best places to live. So as this white wealth transplants and moves to Charlottesville, it's remaking and recreating Charlottesville. And it's pushing out locals that otherwise are the fabric and foundation of what Charlottesville's all about. The people who made Charlottesville as we know it today.
Okay, but how are you tying that in with
why it's always in the national news? Because the media loves to portray a narrative and a hierarching story. And the narrative and the hierarching story is Charlottesville, August 12th. We won't lose that. And let's try to weave that into the storyline of white transplants remaking what this city is about as they move here by the hundreds or the thousands. And this is the impact socioeconomic it's having on the community. This is what it's doing to people of color. This is what it's doing to people who are living on the financial margin. It's gentrification, and it's being done in the Old South. Then you throw in the storyline, this location is south of the Mason-Dixon. Then you throw in the storyline of Thomas Jefferson. Then you throw in the storyline of Monticello, University of Virginia, the Lawn, the Rotunda, the Serpentine Walls used to hide the slaves. You throw in all those other storylines, and then you can see how a journalist is going to try to weave a narrative with what they write. That's why we're constantly in the national news. And say what you want, and jump in here, say what you want. Every piece of coverage we get, where it's one of the best places to live, we earn it, we get it, we love it, we understand it's one of the best places to live. We live here. That's why we live here. We know the place is dope. We live here. We know it's one of the best places to live. For every piece of media that comes out that Charlottesville is one of the best places to live, guess what? You know what comes with that? The other side of the coin. Charlottesville being turned into a story and getting into the national news cycle for something negative. If Charlottesville stays in the news cycle for positivity, it's going to stay top of mind for journalists who will then see a story that they can cover and turn into news, even if it's negative. Thoughts?
Oh man, I mean that was kind of all over the place. I think some of that resonates. Some of it I think is, I don't think I don't know that I agree with the assertion that journalists target Charlottesville because it ends up in top this, that, or the other lists. I think it's just I think it's an easy target. First of all, it's not New York, it's not Los Angeles, so allegations of racism and whatever else, I think they hit harder as a story. I think add to that, the fact of Thomas Jefferson, the statues that we had, and if the media's first big taste of Charlottesville as a story started with A12, I can't imagine it not getting just juicier and juicier. I mean, the more you look into Charlottesville, you find out about Vinegar Hill and all of that stuff. There's all the stuff with the slavery, and it just, it makes an easy story. And then you've got the fact that Nakia Walker was basically pushing narratives for the last
That's another reason. I should have referenced that.
For the last few years.
That's a good one.
And you have this, I think, starting with A12, you just have this continuing narrative where, it's not like we're in the news cycle 24/7.
No, we're not in the news cycle 24/7.
But
we're in there often.
But when we pop up, it's always, it's always something, it's always something sensational, like Brackney, and it's just, it's an easy hit. And
Carol says former Mayor Nakia Walker is planning to write a book. And that's her plan to cash in. That's the Queen of Jack Jewett, Carol Thorpe, offering that perspective. The Nakia Walker book would be something I would pay for. How much would you pay for a Nakia Walker book? A Nakia Walker tell-all about her time in City Council, on the dais. She could let's talk about what would be the foundational pieces of Nakia Walker's tell-all of her time in City Hall. What would be the tenets of her book? The chapters. You would have how she got elected, post in the shadows of August 12th. First black woman in Charlottesville history as mayor. That would undoubtedly be on there. The fact that she was elected as an independent would undoubtedly be on there. The poem, the carnage from the poem, where she compared Charlottesville to sexual to crimes. What else would be on there? Her battles with Lloyd Snook would undoubtedly be on there. Her battles with Bellamy Brown would undoubtedly be on there. The credit card issue, or the gift cards, where she was giving people the gift cards to speak at council, would undoubtedly be on there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much that could be on there. How much would you pay for a Nikiah Walker tell-all book? I'd pay $30.
I wouldn't pay it.
I'd pay $30 to read it.
I wouldn't pay $1.
You wouldn't read it?
I might read it, but
You'd
I'd
take
get it.
my copy,
Yeah.
and of course you would earmark the corners
What?
to indicate what page you stopped on instead of
Wow.
using a bookmark. You are an earmarker of pages.
Never.
You bend the pages and earmark them and crease the pages as a bookmark.
I've got some harsh words I'm about to start spouting.
Dude,
into
if
this.
them fighting words, that I know you're an earmarker of pages on books.
Never.
You're a page earmarker.
Do you want me to have to come over there?
You're a page earmarker. You know you're a page earmarker.
Never.
You're saying you use bookmarks?
Hell yeah.
Okay,
I
thank you.
respect my books way too much to dog ear them just to remember what page I'm on.
That's how I feel. That's exactly how I feel.
And I certainly wouldn't give Nikiah Walker any money by buying her book.
She could self-publish.
I'm not sure how that would change anything, but
It'd be a tough road, self-publishing. All right, three more topics before we get out here. One of them, a positive topic. Vaccines for children 4 years old and under have been approved. So vaccines for children 4 years old and under, you can start making appointments for those
is that really big news though?
next week. I'd say if you have someone that's 4 years old or under, it's big news. I know you're single and ready to mingle, and you're closing Zocalo down, and you're drinking margaritas,
the fact
and you're
that
wearing
I'm
your
single.
cashmere, and you're wearing your skinny tight jeans, and you're wearing your nice Michael Kors leather
Did I
Italian
miss-
loafers,
did I
and
miss
you're
the
going to
announcement
10
that
and
it's made shit up
Zocalo,
about Judah Day?
and Judah's single and ready to mingle, and Judah, last call, buying drinks for other people. But when you have a 4-year-old or someone younger and they're unprotected, this is big news. Mr. Single and ready to mingle.
But it's never been a problem for children, has it? Ever. Like
It's very
Ever.
difficult to explain the mindset of a parent who is fearful of their kid's safety and how sometimes that may or may not cloud, but influence judgment.
I can understand that, but I
The
I
4 and
think it's-
under vaccine is as much for protection for the little boy and the little girl as it is about COVID confidence for the mom and dad. It's like consumer
I
confidence.
completely understand that. It's just my. I feel like COVID confidence for parents is a poor reason to inject children with anything.
I mean, there's that take. That's definitely a take. I totally respect that take. That's definitely a take.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the vaccine. It may be a great thing, but
We know you're not saying that.
But I just feel like
There's not enough empirical data, is what you're saying.
No, I just feel like no. I didn't say that either. I just feel like it's a bad idea to vaccinate kids just to assuage the fears of adults.
A lot of people feel that way. Albemarle County is considering a panhandling ordinance or policy, new policy for panhandlers in Albemarle County. I'm going to just straightforward ask this question. Does the city of Charlottesville and Albemarle County have a panhandling problem?
It could be worse.
It could be way worse.
But we do have.
It could be way worse.
But when you see someone at every major street corner, and sometimes one or two or three around
But
at each of
that's
the.
not that bad.
I'm not saying it's bad.
Let the people stand on the median and get sunburnt and ask for change.
At least they're not offering to wash your windows, right?
Well, there's the one guy that offers to wash your windows.
Really?
Kind of like on the bypass where Whole Foods is. You know that major intersection where Whole Foods and the bypass are? That's like a panhandler epicenter.
Yeah,
they work
definitely.
in team there.
Mm-hmm.
They work in team.
There's usually at least two of them.
The panhandling situation on 29 North can get bad when I see the parent panhandler, the panhandler that's a parent on the median with a little girl or a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
That's not cool. But if it's an adult panhandling, we don't have that bad of a problem.
No. It's
Go to
not that.
Asheville, North Carolina.
Go to Los Angeles.
Go to Los Angeles. Go to Asheville. Go to Manhattan.
If you really want your windows washed by someone with a water bottle and a and a crumpled up piece of newspaper.
Yeah, dude. Remember when the guy came by, and I appreciated his hustle and chutzpah? He came by the studio and he's like, I want to wash your windows. Then I looked in his hand and he had a stick and a newspaper and some dirty water from the faucet. He's like, let me wash your windows. I'm like, dude, that's page 6, C6, the classifieds. You're going to freaking smear the Daily Progress classifieds on my window, my storefront? Remember that? You remember that?
I don't know if I remember that guy.
He was offended that I didn't utilize him to wash our windows. I'm like, the classifieds are not washing my windows, dude. Last topic before we get out of here. To say there's carnage on Wall Street is an understatement.
Yeah.
It is ugly. The Dow is down 2 points plus. The S&P 500 3 points plus, and the Nasdaq basically 4 points plus. The Russell 2000 4.25 points. It's down. The Dow has fallen more than 600 points, tumbling below 30,000 to the lowest level in more than a year.
Dow falls 800 points.
I'm seeing 600 now, 688.
Did they change the headline on CNBC?
Yeah.
Wow.
Jerome Powell, the man in the suit, if you watch yesterday's show, we talked about the man in the suit, Jerome Powell, and the influence he was going to have on the global economy. Yesterday, the largest rate hike
since what, 93?
In a long ass time. Countries in the world raised rates today because Jay Powell raised rates yesterday.
Yeah. Well, the world has been, the world isn't exactly lily white in this either. Central banks have been as involved as the Fed in all this happening.
It is ugly. Ugly. And there's no evidence it's going to get better anytime soon. So chop down high interest debt as quickly as possible. Stretch your dollar by being mindful of monthly subscriptions, please. Vet auto payments. What is being auto drafted out of your account without your knowledge each month that can be cut? Chop down the high interest debt you are carrying, credit card debt. Consider a debt consolidation plan through your local bank, where you consolidate all your high interest debt into one debt service payment at a lower interest rate to help give you less stress each month. The sledding is going to get tougher and the conditions are going to get nastier. So get ready. Anything else you want to add? You agree it's going to get ugly before it gets pretty again, right?
Oh yeah, I don't think there's a short road out of this.
The folks and I've been consistent with this message the entire time on the show, the folks who have chosen to not work through most of this pandemic, and to either live off stimulus or government money, or to, as you've said, downsize their life, lowering their overhead, meaning they have to work less. That group is going to get stung the most here.
It could also.
That group's going to get stung the most.
I was thinking about this, and they could have also gone to like internet jobs, or not even jobs, but selling things on Etsy, on eBay. I mean, they're.
Dude, inflation is so nasty right now. People buying crafts on Etsy.
I didn't
eBay,
say it's going to keep
it's
working.
It's going to drop. Disposable income is going to about to get reeled in.
Oh, I know.
It's going to get dropped.
I know.
You did well today, Judah. Seriously, I sincerely mean that. Judah Wickower is the jack of all trades.
That's me.
My name is Jerry Miller. This is the I Love CVille show on a Thursday afternoon. A little summer afternoon shower in downtown Charlottesville.
What do you know? Rain showers.
I like it.
I like a good sun shower.
I like a good sun shower.
Yeah.
Wash the pollen off the cars.
Yeah.
I like a good sun shower. All right, guys. Have a good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Take care.